Hello once again. We are going to dip into a little bit of Super Nintendo games. Most likely Super Mario World will come first. So you might be wondering, am I going to be show and telling each game for each game? And obviously that would get kind of boring. So the answer is no. So I'm actually going to show off my entire Super Nintendo library. So bear with me. So first of all, here is the coup de grace itself, Super Mario World Super Nintendo Kart. I actually know that there are several versions of this ROM. I don't even know what version mine is. I know very deep things about the 1.0 version because that's the one that is used for ROM hacks in the Lunar Magic save editor, ROM editor. But this is definitely one of my favorite Mario games of all time. Probably because, thanks to Mario Maker, which got me into ROM hacking, I made my own Super Mario World ROM hack, which I hope to stream for sure one day. But next, no Super Nintendo collection would be complete without Super Mario All-Stars. Now this game has kind of an interesting story because what anniversary was it? 20, 25, 30, 35? I've lost track. Nintendo released a special Super Mario All-Stars, I believe it was for Wii? Or was it Wii U? I can't even remember anymore. Disc that had all of these original games. And it kind of was a little bit of controversy because it wasn't anything interesting, like for example when they did a Kirby anniversary and like actually made something, made like a gallery, made historical things. It was absolutely just this Super Mario All-Stars straight up on the disc. So it was kind of sad because even when I loaded it up, I'm like, oh well, I still have Super Mario All-Stars, so this special anniversary disc didn't hold very much excitement for me beyond that. Alright, now, next, what exactly is the greatest video game trilogy of all time? This is going to be a raging debate all through my streaming life, but I would argue that at least in the Super Nintendo era, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 are, in fact, the best Super Nintendo trilogy ever made. How many Super Nintendo trilogies are there? That's a good question. But I really love not just this game, but let me showcase all of them. Donkey Kong Country 2, an entire game based on pirates. Love it, absolutely. And also Donkey Kong Country 3, to close it off. I love how each game is progressively more difficult. I would say this one is more difficult than the previous first two games, and the final level in this is probably more difficult than the final levels in the other games as well. But as much as I love those games, this is probably my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time. No joke. If I were to make a top, who knows, 10 or top 20 list, Super Mario RPG would probably be pretty high up there, honestly. This was probably the first RPG game I ever played, and granted, I understand it's a simple game, but you do have to start somewhere, right? So, due to the fact that this is an extremely beloved game of mine, I'll have a lot to say about it when I stream that game. Not to be overshadowed by Super Mario World is Super Mario World 2, but typically mostly often called just Yoshi's Island. This is a great game also, and once again, Nintendo drastically departs where the sequel is bizarrely different than the original game. Here is the kart racing game that started it all. Let's get that baby into focus. Super Mario Kart, the original. It is extremely difficult for me to play on the hardest and fastest difficulty because for whatever reason, the controls are very bizarre in this game. I'll definitely have a lot to say about this game, Jurassic Park. A lot of times, especially in this era, licensed video games, seriously, but I actually will be streaming this and most likely beating it. It takes about 2 hours to beat, but more on that later. This is one of the poorest quality video games I own for the Super Nintendo, as in like damaged, not very good condition. Like, not saying anything about the game itself, but Star Fox, classic Super Nintendo game, but I got this from a friend who never really took care of any of his games or really anything. I probably won't stream Pilot Wings at all, maybe. It's also not a very good quality. This cart that I have also got it used and never beat it because it's kind of very unfair and stacked against the player. But it definitely has inspired a lot of future Pilot Wings games. And here is another game I inherited, Super Tecmo Basketball. I'm most definitely not a sports gamer, but honestly this game is pretty stinking fun. And I remember playing through an entire season on it, and I probably won't stream it, but again, it's hard to beat games that you get for free, right? But now that we've said that, I will most likely continue to use emulator instead of using original hardware, which is too bad because here is another toy I would love to show off. My newly renamed EverDrive for Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo EverDrive. I think they had to rename it for some copyright issue or something. I don't know. But essentially, with this baby, I can play all Super Nintendo games. Actually, it's like 99.9% of all Super Nintendo games that have ever been made on my original hardware. Which, maybe, when we get to my ROM hack, I will do so, because I'd like to show off the same guy, my friend, the same friend, who made this amazing PC for me. My streaming machine also made this, as you can see, original Super Nintendo controller, and it's modified though, so it has a few buttons remapped hardware wise, so that I believe the R and A buttons are swapped, so that Mario's spin jump is acting a little bit more like Mario Maker. Because unfortunately, yes, I have played way too much Super Mario Maker, and you spin jump with the shoulder button, and so therefore, because I'm so used to that, and because you can remap buttons on emulator very easily, when it came to my ROM hack, I realized, oh wow, I have difficulty playing my own game with original hardware and original controller hardware. So now, without further ado, I'll go ahead and, now that I've showed off all of my toys, we'll be starting to talk about a little bit about Super Mario World, but I'll keep it brief because Super Mario World in total has a lot of exits, so there will be plenty of time for me to talk all about it while I'm actually playing it. Welcome to Super Mario World. Don't know when I'm exactly supposed to start that. So, welcome. This is Dinosaur Land. In this strange land, we find that Princess Toadstool is missing again. Looks like Bowser is at it again. No joke. That spot, you can't skip that title, that intro message for B0 frames. That's like 176 frames that you can't skip that, which is absolutely ridiculous. And really, it takes one hex edit to change that. You can change it to 0 even. So I suppose Nintendo made that, right? But when other people make their ROM hack and it's still the same vanilla B0 frames, it's like, come on, take some pride in your work. Remove that timer completely, or don't have an intro message or something. Anyways, Yoshi House has some pretty cool unique sprites. These birds, I don't know if you can actually activate them unless you have like a little Yoshi to jump off of, but when you touch the birds, they gently fly off. Almost had that one. Yeah, I'll come back and jump off Yoshi. So, interesting story. The sprite that is used to spawn this fire, as well as the smoke above there, is the exact same sprite that is used to trigger the side exit. Now, this is the only level in which that's used, so it's totally fine. and this can be placed on either an odd or an even tile, because it's like a two binary bit switch. So interestingly enough, if you put this same side exit sprite to spawn on one tile to the left or right, it will not spawn this fire and that smoke up there, and so you could still attain the vanilla side exit without getting the Yoshi smoke in the way. So anyway, this message box is also unique. It says, "Hello, sorry I'm not home, but I have gone to rescue my friends who were captured by Bowser." So here's a question: what if, unlike the modern Mario games, which are horrible, where if you get Yoshi, by the end of the course you have to exit Yoshi, what if we bring Yoshi to this level? Wouldn't it be kind of awkward if it displays the same message? And the answer is yes, it would. So we'll play around with that as far as bringing a Yoshi to this. So first we'll hit Yoshi's Island number 1. So no Yoshi in that level. In fact, the earliest Yoshi you can get is actually on Yoshi's Island 2, which is in the opposite direction. But hey, we'll go this way first, get our first glimpse at the overworld and our Yellow Switch Palace. So interestingly enough, there's a lot of weird things that can happen if you go into a Switch Palace for a second time. So for very good reason, it's the case that these tiles break and you can never re-enter them. So what this does is, everywhere there's like it's kind of like the original Kaizo block indicator, the little diagonal box. If it was yellow, then hitting that switch has made them all filled solid blocks. But not just that, they also have mushrooms in them. Alright, so see, before this would have been an empty space, but marked. But now it's a mushroom yellow explanation block. That's a Yoshi also, but if you are currently, or actually not on, if you have currently spawned a Yoshi anywhere in the entire level, as Yoshi is a global sprite, then it will spawn a 1-up instead. Alright, so now let's go ahead and go back to the Yoshi's house temporarily. And notice, what does the message display? It says, "It is possible to fill in the dotted line blocks. To fill in the yellow ones, just go west and north to the top of the mountain." Notice it's a different message because I was on Yoshi, but oops, even though Yoshi is a spawn sprite, you can hit this message box and it still reverts back to the original message. So there's some very interesting programming here that in this unique special level, the message box is loaded differently based whether or not Mario is on Yoshi or not. So to me, in my opinion, the whole physics of this game, and obviously this is a very biased view because I've played it a lot, the physics of Mario feel the most natural and intuitive in this game. Like, you heard me complain about Super Mario Bros. 1. Mario Bros. 3 is pretty good, honestly, but I definitely prefer Super Mario World physics. Well, that life went the other way, didn't it? Alright, so now here we are in our first castle. Had I not skipped that, there's actually a scene where if Mario is on Yoshi, there's a little Yoshi dismount scene, which is kind of cute. Here's an interesting mechanic. If you catch any sprite that's carryable whilst in midair or climbing, Mario actually catches it. I unreleased B, so that's why he kicked it. Because really there's absolutely no need to carry a P-switch anywhere in the rest of this level. Yay! Slow auto-scroll levels. Everyone's favorite though, right? These castle crushers, interestingly enough, it's like a layer 3 thing, but it's one of the few things in the entire game that uses those colors that you see, which is from palette 1, which kind of, that's better saved for a ROM hacking tutorial. Let's hit my split when it fades out. 10 minutes and 9 seconds. Mario has defeated the demented Iggy Koopa in Castle Number 1 and rescued Yoshi's friend who is still trapped in an egg. Together, they now travel to Donut Land.